Maya had always felt a sense of calm when she stepped into her home after a long day. But tonight, that calm was broken. Her husband, Ryan, had invited his college friend, Luke, to stay over for a few days. Luke wasn't just any friend. He had a reputation for being unpredictable, and Maya couldn't shake the uneasy feeling in her chest. It was 6:47 p.m. when Ryan called to say they would be home in a few minutes. Maya was arranging flowers in the living room, trying to distract herself. She glanced at the clock repeatedly, her thoughts spinning. She didn't know why Luke's visit made her heart pound, but something about it felt different this time. When the door finally opened, Ryan came in first, smiling as he greeted her. "Hey, you'll love Luke. He's changed a lot since college," he said, placing his keys on the counter. Maya smiled politely, though the tension in her shoulders didn't ease. Then Luke stepped in. Luke's presence was immediate. He carried himself with quiet confidence, and his sharp eyes scanned the room as if trying to read her mind. "Good to finally meet you, Maya," he said with a half smile. His voice was warm, but Maya couldn't help noticing the slight worry that lingered in his gaze. Dinner felt unusually long. Luke asked about her work, her hobbies, even her favorite movies. Maya tried to be polite, but she kept catching him staring at Ryan when he wasn't looking. It wasn't intrusive, just careful. Something about the way he watched her husband made her stomach twist. After dinner, they moved to the living room. Luke sat in the corner, a blanket over his legs, quietly observing. Ryan chatted about old college memories, laughing easily, while Maya tried to join in, but her eyes kept drifting to Luke. His expression was thoughtful, almost heavy, and it unnerved her. "I didn't expect Luke to be this quiet," Ryan said, glancing at him. Luke gave a small shrug. "I just had a long day of traveling. I'll be fine," he said, but his voice carried a subtle tension. Maya noticed it immediately, though Ryan seemed oblivious. Later, she helped clear the dishes. Luke stayed behind, watching silently. Maya's curiosity got the better of her. "Everything okay?" she asked. Luke looked up, and for a brief moment, his worried expression softened. "Yeah, just thinking," he said, brushing it off. But Maya's mind wouldn't let it go. She remembered Ryan's excitement about this visit and wondered why Luke seemed so burdened. Something about the way he hesitated before answering, the way his eyes darted toward Ryan occasionally, it all felt significant. As the night deepened, Maya found herself walking past the hallway where Luke's guest room was. She paused, hearing the faint sound of someone pacing. Her heart raced. She didn't want to intrude, yet she couldn't ignore the unease building inside her. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. Maya returned to the living room, trying to focus on Ryan, but her mind wandered back to Luke. What was he worried about? And why did his concern seem directed at Ryan? The thought lingered, heavy and unshakable. Hours passed, and Ryan eventually went to bed. Maya stayed in the living room, pretending to read, though she barely noticed the words. A soft knock at the guest room door made her freeze. She wasn't sure why, but the sound sent a shiver down her spine. She debated whether to check on Luke or leave him alone. Something in the silence told her that whatever was troubling him might spill over tonight. She wanted to ask, to ease the tension, but a quiet fear held her back. And then she heard him whispering softly, almost to himself, "I hope he doesn't find out." Maya's chest tightened. What was Luke hiding? And why did it make her feel so anxious for Ryan? The night stretched on, and Maya couldn't shake the feeling that the visit would change something, though she didn't yet know what. The soft, heavy atmosphere in the house left her restless. She wondered what tomorrow would bring, and whether she would finally understand the weight behind Luke's worried expression. Morning came quietly, with sunlight slipping through the blinds. Maya woke early, as usual, feeling restless. She peeked at the guest room. Luke's bed was empty, and the door was slightly ajar. A faint scent of coffee lingered in the air, but the room was otherwise still. Downstairs, Ryan was in the kitchen, humming softly while making breakfast. "Morning," he said cheerfully, handing her a cup of coffee. Maya forced a smile, but her mind was elsewhere. She couldn't stop thinking about Luke and that worried look from last night. "Has he been up?" she asked. Ryan shook his head. "Not yet. He said he needed some time to catch up on sleep. He's probably tired from the drive." Maya nodded, but her unease grew. There was something about Luke's presence that made the house feel heavier. After breakfast, Maya decided to step outside for a walk. The crisp air helped her think. She kept replaying Luke's quiet moments from last night, the way he lingered near Ryan, the subtle tension in his voice. It was unlike anything she had seen before. When she returned, Ryan was already in the living room with Luke. They were laughing over an old photograph Ryan had pulled from a box. Maya paused at the doorway, observing. Luke smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. The worry was still there, faint but unmistakable. "Morning, Maya," Luke said, finally noticing her. He sounded warmer this time, more relaxed. Maya returned the greeting, though she couldn't hide the curiosity in her tone. "You slept okay?" she asked. Luke nodded. "Yeah, just some strange dreams." He didn't elaborate, and Maya didn't push. The day moved slowly. Ryan suggested a drive to the nearby park, hoping to make Luke feel more at home. Maya joined them, but her thoughts kept drifting to that hint of worry she couldn't shake. Luke's laughter seemed polite rather than genuine, his eyes scanning Ryan as though he expected something. At the park, they spread a blanket under a large oak tree. Ryan and Luke tossed a frisbee back and forth, joking loudly. Maya watched them, trying to relax, but her heart remained tight. She wanted to ask Luke if he was okay, but something told her to wait. Later, as they drove back, Maya noticed Luke's expression change suddenly. His eyes clouded over for a moment, and he stared out the window silently. She leaned slightly toward him. "Are you sure you're all right?" she asked softly. Luke didn't respond immediately. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. I don't want to upset Ryan," he admitted. Maya's curiosity spiked. Upset him? About what? Luke shook his head, avoiding her gaze. "It's nothing you need to worry about." But the way he said it suggested the opposite. Back home, the evening felt heavier. Ryan was in the kitchen, preparing dinner, humming as usual. Maya tried to engage him in conversation, but her mind kept returning to Luke. His earlier words echoed in her mind. "I don't want to upset Ryan." As night fell, Maya found herself standing near the guest room again. Luke was pacing softly, muttering under his breath. She felt a sudden impulse to check on him, to ask if he needed to talk. But just as she moved closer, he stopped, hearing her steps. He turned, startled. "Maya, it's nothing, really," he said quickly, brushing off the tension. Maya studied his face. The worry was clear, deep, as if he was holding a secret he couldn't share. She felt an ache in her chest. Ryan was oblivious, laughing in the kitchen at some story from the day. But Maya knew something was amiss. Luke's expression, his hesitations, even his smiles, they didn't match. Something was weighing heavily on him. Maya sat down quietly in the living room, trying to focus on a book, but her thoughts refused to settle. She felt protective of Ryan, and Luke's unease made her anxious. She couldn't explain why, but the subtle tension was enough to keep her on edge. Hours later, Ryan went to bed, humming softly as he passed her. Maya stayed in the living room, watching Luke through the slightly open door. He was sitting on the edge of his bed, staring at the floor, lost in thought. Then she heard him whisper again, just barely audible. "I have to tell him soon, before it's too late." Maya's heart skipped. Tell him what? And why did the words send a shiver down her spine? She wanted to ask, but she feared she might learn something she wasn't ready for. The quiet night stretched, heavy and tense. Maya realized that Luke's visit was far more than just a casual stay. It was bringing secrets into their home, secrets that could change everything. The next morning, Maya woke to the soft hum of rain against the window. The gray sky matched her mood. Luke had stayed up late again, she could tell. The quiet house felt heavier than usual, as if the walls themselves were listening. Ryan was still asleep. Maya wrapped herself in a sweater and headed to the kitchen, hoping a cup of tea would calm her thoughts. She kept glancing toward the guest room. Luke hadn't emerged yet, and that worried look from yesterday was still fresh in her mind. When Luke finally appeared, he seemed distracted, almost distant. He nodded politely to Maya and went straight to the living room. Ryan appeared moments later, cheerful as always. "Morning, everyone! Rainy day, huh? Perfect for board games," he said, grabbing a box from the shelf. Maya smiled faintly. Luke followed Ryan to the table, but she noticed the way his fingers drummed nervously against the wood. Ryan didn't notice, caught up in his excitement. Maya felt a tug of concern for both of them. Something was unspoken, floating between Luke and Ryan. Hours passed slowly. Luke kept glancing at Ryan whenever he spoke, a subtle tension in his posture. Maya tried to talk to him, casually asking about his work, his travels, anything to ease the tightness in the room. But he gave short answers, polite but guarded. Finally, during a quiet moment, Maya asked again, more gently this time. "Luke, you're worried about something. Can I help?" Luke looked down, hesitation flickering in his eyes. He opened his mouth, then closed it, shaking his head. "It's complicated," he said softly. Maya sensed there was more, something he wasn't ready to share. She didn't press. Instead, she decided to keep a watchful eye, hoping to understand without forcing the truth out. She didn't want to frighten him, but she couldn't ignore the unease that clung to him. Later that afternoon, Ryan suggested they all go out to grab lunch. Maya agreed, hoping a change of scenery would lighten the mood. On the way, Luke remained quiet, staring out the window. Maya sat beside him, offering gentle conversation. He smiled faintly, but didn't engage much. When they returned home, the rain had stopped. The air smelled fresh, but Luke's unease hadn't lifted. Ryan went to the kitchen to make snacks, leaving Maya and Luke alone for a moment. She noticed the tension in his shoulders, the distant look in his eyes. "Luke," she said softly, "I know something's on your mind. You don't have to tell me everything, but you can trust us." He glanced at her, and for the first time, his eyes softened. I don't want to hurt him," he admitted quietly. Maya's heart ached. "Who?" she asked gently. Luke hesitated, biting his lip. "Ryan, I don't want to upset him with news from the past," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Maya's chest tightened. Past news? Secrets? She felt a mixture of fear and curiosity. The evening came quietly. Ryan was distracted by a new project he was working on, leaving Maya alone with Luke again. She could sense the weight pressing down on him. She wanted to ask more, to understand, but she feared she might overstep. Hours later, Ryan went to bed, leaving the house silent except for the soft ticking of the clock. Maya stayed in the living room, feeling an almost magnetic pull toward the guest room. Luke was pacing, whispering under his breath. She moved closer, careful not to make a sound. I should probably let him rest, she told herself. But then she heard a phrase that made her pause. I need to tell him before it's too late. Maya's stomach twisted. Something was coming, something that could change everything between them. Her curiosity battled with her instinct to wait, but she knew she couldn't ignore it. The night felt endless. Maya's thoughts swirled around Ryan, Luke, and the secret that hung between them. She realized that Luke's presence wasn't just about a visit. It was about a truth he had been holding back, a truth that could shake the foundation of their lives. The next morning, the house was unusually quiet. Maya woke to a soft gray light filtering through the blinds. She glanced toward the guest room, half expecting to see Luke up already. But the room was still, except for a faint shadow moving behind the curtains. Ryan was in the kitchen, humming softly while making breakfast. Maya poured herself a cup of tea and joined him. He noticed her thoughtful expression and asked, "Everything okay?" She forced a smile. "Yes, just thinking," she said, though her mind was full of Luke and the tension she couldn't explain. Luke appeared shortly after, carrying a small bag. His movements were careful, deliberate, almost as if he were bracing himself for something. Ryan greeted him warmly. "Ready for another adventure today?" he said. Luke nodded, but his eyes betrayed a lingering worry. Maya watched them interact. The bond between Ryan and Luke was clear, filled with years of shared memories. But that shadow of concern hovered over Luke, subtle but impossible to ignore. Every glance he threw Ryan seemed weighted, cautious, filled with a hidden urgency. As the morning passed, Maya tried to distract herself. She folded laundry, tidied the living room, and even played some soft music. But the quiet kept drawing her attention back to Luke. Something told her that the secret he carried was close to spilling over. Around noon, Ryan suggested a drive to the lake. Maya agreed, hoping that being outdoors would ease the tension. Luke joined them, quiet and reflective. As they drove, Maya noticed his eyes on Ryan again, a flicker of worry crossing his face whenever Ryan laughed or spoke freely. At the lake, the air was crisp and fresh. Ryan ran ahead to skip stones, calling back to them cheerfully. Maya and Luke stayed behind for a moment, watching the water ripple gently. She felt the need to speak, to ease the cloud over him. "Luke," she said softly, "I can see something is bothering you. You don't have to say it now, but I'm here if you want to talk." He looked at her, hesitation clear. Then, with a small sigh, he admitted, "It's not easy. It's about Ryan, and I don't know if I should say anything." Maya's chest tightened. She could feel the weight of his words, the invisible burden pressing down on him. "Whatever it is," she said gently, "we'll face it together. You don't have to carry it alone." Luke looked at her, a mixture of relief and fear in his eyes. They returned home, the quiet evening settling in. Ryan was distracted by a work call, giving Maya another chance to talk to Luke. But when she approached him, he stepped back slightly. "I can't tell you yet," he said softly. "I need to be sure. I don't want to make things worse." Maya nodded, understanding his caution. She could sense the truth was heavy and that it involved Ryan in a way she couldn't yet grasp. The tension in the house was subtle but unmistakable, filling the corners of every room. Later that night, Ryan went to bed, humming a familiar tune. Maya stayed in the living room, the clock ticking softly. Luke sat on the couch, staring at his hands. The silence stretched, but then she heard him whisper again, "I don't have much time. He needs to know soon." Maya's heart raced. The words hung in the air like a fragile thread, and she realized that whatever Luke was about to reveal could change everything. Her mind spun with questions, worry, and anticipation. She stayed near, watching him, sensing that the moment was approaching, the moment when secrets would surface and truths would finally be spoken. The next morning, Maya woke to the soft light of dawn. The house was quiet, heavier than usual. She sensed something was about to happen. Luke had stayed up late again, and she could feel the tension radiating from him, even from across the room. Ryan was in the kitchen, humming, as he always did. Maya joined him, her thoughts racing. She noticed Luke's absence and wondered if he had gone out early. Moments later, she heard footsteps approaching. Luke was coming down the stairs, his face pale, eyes serious. Ryan greeted him cheerfully, oblivious to the storm in Luke's expression. "Morning! Ready for breakfast?" Luke nodded, but his hand trembled slightly as he poured himself a cup of coffee. Maya's heart sank. Whatever he was carrying, it felt urgent now. As they sat down to eat, Luke glanced at Ryan, hesitated, then looked away. Maya reached out subtly, placing a hand near his on the table. "You can tell him," she whispered. He looked at her, a flicker of gratitude crossing his features. I think it's time," he admitted. After breakfast, the three of them sat in the living room. Ryan was relaxed, laughing at a joke Maya had made. Luke took a deep breath, his fingers fidgeting. "Ryan, there's something from the past, something I need to tell you," he began, his voice steady despite the tension. Ryan's laughter faded, replaced by curiosity. "What is it?" he asked. Luke's eyes met his, serious and full of worry. "It's about a mistake I made in college," he said. Maya's stomach tightened, a secret finally revealed. Luke went on, carefully recounting the events, the decisions he had made, and the consequences that had followed him over the years. He spoke honestly, taking responsibility, his voice quiet but firm. Maya felt a weight lift slightly, knowing the truth was finally out. Ryan listened, his expression unreadable at first. Maya held her breath. Then, slowly, he nodded. "I appreciate your honesty," he said softly. "It must have been hard to carry this all these years." Luke's shoulders relaxed, relief visible. The tension in the room eased. Maya felt a wave of gratitude for the way Ryan handled the revelation, calm, understanding, and supportive. Luke looked at her, eyes moist, and mouthed a quiet, "Thank you." She smiled gently, feeling the unspoken bond of trust between them. The day unfolded gently after that. The air felt lighter. They spent time together in the living room, talking, laughing softly. Maya noticed the subtle change in Luke's demeanor. He seemed freer, more at ease. Ryan, too, carried a quiet warmth, a sense of respect for the honesty that had been shared. That evening, Maya watched the sunset from the porch. Ryan stood beside her, holding her hand. Luke had retreated to the guest room, giving them space, but the atmosphere in the house was calm, almost tender. The worry that had lingered for days was finally gone. Maya reflected on the past few days, the tension, the uncertainty, and the quiet moments of concern. She realized that sometimes the heaviest burdens aren't carried alone. Trust, honesty, and gentle understanding could ease even the deepest worries. As night fell, Ryan kissed her forehead softly. "Everything's going to be okay," he whispered. Maya nodded, feeling the truth in his words. The house was quiet, peaceful, and filled with a sense of renewed connection. Luke's visit had brought worry, tension, and uncertainty, but it had also revealed the strength of trust and the importance of facing difficult truths together. Maya knew that their bond, as a couple and as friends, had grown stronger because of it. And as she turned off the lights and watched the stars through the window, Maya felt a quiet relief. The secret had been shared, the worries addressed, and the love in the house had endured, steady and unshakable. The evening ended softly, with the weight of unspoken fears finally lifted, leaving only calm, understanding, and a sense of togetherness that would last far beyond Luke's stay.